I'm joined tonight by Keith McDonald, board member and Republican caucus chair. So Mike, thank you very much for joining us and for your interest in serving. If it's okay, we'll go ahead and get going.
Okay.
The first question I have is, pretty basic one. Why are you interested in the county board? Why now, and what drives your interest? Why are you interested in serving at this time at the county?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity presented here. Basically, I'm semi-retired. I still work as a consultant in the resistance welding business and still do all that. The interest I had was, for years, I was on the Central Committee for District 6 here. I've been involved in quite a bit of the local politics from a standpoint of helping people who are running, attending the Lincoln Day dinners, and being involved in other Republican events through the years. And I guess I was recommended by Tom Klein, and he approached Tom Hawes, who I've known for quite a few years now. And he asked me if I'd be interested. I said, I thought about it and talked it over with the family. And I thought I would be a good fit simply because I know a lot of people in the area. I've worked, like I said, other campaigns for people, been involved in a lot of local sports and so forth. But it was interested, and I thought it would be a good idea and see what would happen with it.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Tell us a little bit about your background, Mike, and how that has prepared you to be an effective county board member.
Well, been married now, going to be 45 years. We moved out here. We've been in a Roscoe residence for about 32, 33 years. I graduated St. Louis University back in 1972 with a marketing management, a minor in psychology. And when I left St. Louis University, I came home and I became a police officer for western suburbs of Chicago. And what I did there was patrolman. I was juvenile officer and also traffic crash investigation officer. I did that for about 7.5 years, and then decided, well, we got look at something else. And I ended up going into the private industry, and I worked for a company in Carroll Stream that manufactured resistance welding controls. I went into that industry not knowing anything about that industry, but learned over the years, and worked with them for 35 years as product manager. I then ended up deciding that I tried on my own, and I became a consultant about 5 years ago. And I picked up a couple of the OEMs, customers of mine. I represent them out in the industry that manufacture not only controls, but machines and copper consumable product. But that's really, I've been involved in business now for over 4 years, and I travel quite extensively across North America. I've been to China, I've been to England, and I've seen quite a bit that goes on within the industry and within the United States and the country for that matter. Okay.
In Mr. McDonald will jump in anytime he wants. What are some, you get appointed here. This is a several month appointment. It would go to the end of this term, which would be, the new board would be seated in early December 2020. Mm-hmm. So let's just say you get appointed. What would be, in a very short amount of time, what would be some of your goals as a county board member if you're appointed to the District 4 seat?
Well, first and foremost, I think public safety and the total operation of the county itself, given the roads. From the public safety standpoint, maintaining the integrity between the sheriff's office, that is, as well as the court systems and those associated there. From my standpoint here in District 4 would be to basically work with the citizens when needed, and making sure that with the county services that are supplied, everybody is happy about that. Mm-hmm. But foremost to the overall operation of the overall services that the county provides, making sure that that is something that needs to be maintained. I understand there is some issues from a financial standpoint. Um, I would like to, you know, see what we could do to relieve that. I know there's going to be some issues over time, because especially with the COVID virus and all that, that's all going to add on to what's happening within the county now.
I'll let Mr. McDonald take the next question. I'm going to slip one in before him.
Sure.
You mentioned COVID-19. That's been the topic of conversation in our community and pretty much every community around the country. Sometimes county board members get asked by the media their opinion on a range of topics, not all of which have an action item in front of the county board. So the media may ask the board members about budget, but they may ask them about community issues, of which COVID-19 is certainly that. What's your general thoughts on all things COVID-19? Any general, if you got asked by the media, what are your thoughts on things that are going well or not well, questions or concerns you have? Just throwing it open for you to talk about COVID-19 for a minute.
Well, my own personal viewpoint is I don't agree totally with everything being said about the COVID-19 virus at this point in time. But that being said, the issue within the county, the state, and the entire country is the loss of jobs, businesses closed, people being laid off, the financial burden it's putting on that. And then in addition to that, that falls back into the county, because the county's not going to be making the money that they should be making or getting back from the citizens through taxes and so forth. So that's an issue to me that has to be looked at. What effect the COVID is going to have totally on the county, that's still a question. I think that's in the future. We don't know. It is affecting the county right now because, like I said, of the loss of jobs, loss of tax revenue, and that sort of thing. I believe overall it's going to pick up shortly once they start to open things up and allow people to go back to work and get back to a normal situation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Mr. McDonald, you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. And if you excuse me, I've got written questions, so if I look down, that's what I'm doing. My first question, the decision we make as board members have to be approved by at least a majority vote most of the time. There's some circumstances where it's more than just a simple majority. Tell me about ways you would try to persuade or influence your fellow board members to see things the same way as you do.
Well, I imagine it would go down, it'd have to be discussed openly. I mean, again, I'm not familiar with the board makeup. I understand how there are X amount of Republicans, X amount of Democrats. To me, it would have to boil down to what their priorities are. My priority, one thing I am against is any type of tax increase at this point in time, simply because with everything that's going on within the country and the county, to add additional taxes onto someone like the citizens of this county, to me, is not the right approach to raise revenue. I honestly think that there's other ways around that. One is actually operational costs. How can we reduce that? Overall, there's one of the things when I was a police officer we had was a system called time due. And what that was, if you worked overtime, you weren't paid for it, but you were given time due or time that you could utilize from a standpoint of a day off or a vacation, that sort of thing. I'm not sure if they're doing that now because I'm not aware of anything of that or understand what their principles are at this point. But that's something there. Another thing is a work share load. In other words, if there's going to, in lieu of layoffs, have what we call furloughs. I know my one son has just got furloughed from a company he works for here in Rockford, and he's going to be gone for 2 weeks. And what they're doing is splitting up that workload between the employees so they don't have to let them go. That might be something to look at from a county standpoint to reduce our overall operating costs. to work with someone else or discuss that, that would have to be discussed among the board members. And, you know, I'd be willing to do that and take in consideration what they may or may not like about that.
Sure, I appreciate it. It's very dynamic. Obviously, we're looking for consensus. I could like Fords, you could like Chevys, and how do I persuade you that one is better than the other? I was just curious if you had any tactics or strategies how to do that. Next question I have is, so if you wanted item A to pass, how would you handle it if you were in the minority of the vote and what you wanted didn't happen? On the board, I've seen all kinds of examples from people getting mad to it just didn't matter. Curious how you'd handle that.
I wouldn't be mad. I mean, it's not a question of being mad. It's a question of understanding what is happening and why it's happening. Again, I would try to talk with the other board members to see if we can convince people to look at a different option or a number of options for that. Honestly, I don't know how to really answer that at this point since I've never been involved in that type of situation. I know when, again, I'll go back to when I was a police officer, I was involved in the wage board. We didn't have a union at the time, so we appointed a couple of us, and we actually presented our views to the township and town and went ahead from that standpoint. In business, I don't know if you're in sales or not, but in sales, you constantly get rejected, okay? That's just the nature of the game. But the idea is I don't get mad at that point. I try to approach that customer again from a different angle, and I keep in contact with them and work with them from that standpoint. I've been rejected numerous times, but it will come back down to some point in time where they need help or whatever, and you go in there with them. And I think the same principle would apply even on a county board or any other position.
Sure. And I'm glad you're going the direction you are. I understand you don't have any county board experience yet, so I am looking to draw from your personal past, be it professional at work, relationships, whatever, just how you deal with situations like that. And then the second last one I had done, actually pretty much answered the both of them, but one, for the last several years, the county board has been approving budgets that include deficit spending. We are projected to lose over $6 million this year because of the COVID-19 virus, and will be forced to spend down much of our reserves. Do you have any experience? What steps do you think the county should take?
Well, I go back again to looking at operational costs, trying to reduce what we can there, eliminating, not eliminating so much, but to reduce workloads on certain departments. Again, you have to work within a budget. You're limited in that sense, just like you are at home with a home budget. To have some type of deficit spending like that, I mean, what are we buying? Why are we buying it? Those sort of things. When I look at that, and again, I look at it from an outside position as a newspaper or something like that. When I see spending being made, first thing in my mind is why? I mean, what are we really doing with that? What do we hope to accomplish? And I voted a lot of times in a lot of referendums within the county up here. I voted against those things. It's a matter of, let's say it simply, but common sense. I mean, what can we afford? How can we afford it? If we can't afford it, why are we buying this? What is the necessity behind it? I can understand under, like law enforcement, the sheriff's office has a budget. They have a sales tax there that was passed many, many moons ago that allow them to purchase things and do things. My question would be in some of those aspects is, are they necessary? What is the purpose behind them? I'm a fiscal conservative. I don't like to spend money I don't have, so to speak.
I don't know if you saw me writing, but you brought up another question. The reason I write them down is so I can make sure to ask everybody the same questions, so that way everybody gets the fair shake.
Okay.
But you bring up the public safety sales tax, and I'm glad that you did. That's a terrific topic I'd like to talk about. Did you say you were involved back then trying to get it to pass?
No, I was not involved in that at all. I mean, I heard about it and I read about it, and I just decided, you know, I understand why it was done, but I had no idea prior to this interview and so forth.
Just curiosity that you have some background on it. Do you feel that those public safety sales tax dollars, should they go in addition to build the public safety budget, or does that allow those millions of dollars to be spent somewhere else and still have the same public safety budget?
No, I would say it stays within that department, period. Again, depending upon what is being needed, I'm not sure at this point, and I don't really understand who fully controls it. Is that the sheriff's responsibility? But the board approves, as far as I understand, the board approves certain expenditures and so forth. Or does that come strictly from the sheriff? But I would keep that money on the sheriff's end of it. I don't believe he has to. I don't believe we should be looking in other areas at that point.
Okay. The last question, once again, you've already answered, but we're already so drama filled and overly serious. My last question is, who's your favorite football team?
The Chicago Bears.
Sir.
I got a little note about that. And this goes way back to when they first started. My grandfather was neighbor with Mr. George Hallis, and George Hallis approached them and asked him if he wanted to be on a ground floor opportunity. My grandfather declined. So.
Wow.
Ouch.
Okay,
Ouch.
those are the prepared questions I had, Chairman.
Okay, no, thank you. So Mike, the other one of the other funds that gets a lot of discussion at the county is the host fee fund. And just as a matter of background, Winnebago County landfill imports garbage from other communities, of which there is a small percentage, a teeny percentage, that goes to county government. Although it's not our landfill, we get something called tipping fee dollars. And historically, over the years, the county has used those tipping fee dollars for a special project fund, usually around development, community projects, that type of thing, things around primarily economic development, not exclusively, but primarily. There is always discussion about how to best use those dollars going forward, especially during strained budgets. Do you have any particular thoughts on the host fee fund, on expenditures to date, or future use of those dollars during very unique times?
I would kind of think that would depend on the circumstances involved. If you're referring to something within the COVID issue, I think, yeah, that would have to be reviewed and discussed overall. But typically, my understanding and reading on that was it was involved strictly for economic situations. Again, that would, to me, I don't know what's going to happen with this COVID. I don't know if anybody else does overall, but if that becomes an issue where those funds are still available, I think that would something we'd have to look at and what we were going to use them for.
Sure, no, it makes sense. So one of the questions, the person who had the District 4 seat obviously was a Republican elected on the Republican ballot. Elected as a Republican actually multiple times, and then stepped off the board. There's always great discernment and questions around candidates that are attempting to fill a vacancy that has a partisan label attached to it, whether that's a Democrat or, in this case, a Republican. You mentioned you're a fiscal conservative. Talk to us about, for those that have questions, is Mike a Republican? Is Mike really a Republican at the end of the day? Help us understand how that is in fact the case. And I'm not saying that as a gotcha. I just want to give you the opportunity for anybody that'll be watching this to understand that aspect of you.
I am Republican, staunch Republican. I'm more of on a Tea Party side. Again, I see some things happening within the Republican Party I don't agree with. But otherwise, I voted since my voting started when I was 18. I've been voting Republican, period.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One of the other things that I think I've seen county board members openly talk about, at times either struggle with or have to navigate, is you would be one of 20 members of a team that represents a very specific part of Winnebago County, District 4. You also make a lot of governing decisions that affect the entire county. How do you balance the needs of your district, a very unique part of Winnebago, with the larger overall needs of the county, which, as we know, are very diverse, right? We have an urban setting, a very rural setting, and kind of a suburban residential areas that are more residential in nature. What's your thoughts on that dichotomy?
I think they're tied together. I think the county and the township or the District 4 area basically are going to rely on one another. Whatever the county, the district can't do anything more than what the county can at this point, how I feel, especially from a financial standpoint. If the money's not there, there's not a whole lot you can do if the money's not there, period. And that money comes from the county. So I think they have to work hand in hand from a standpoint of what information I can get from the citizens and then pass that information on to the county and vice versa.
Absolutely. What's, when you look at your district then more specifically, what's just one or two things top of mind that you hear in your district talking to residents or that are important to folks that you'd be representing directly?
One thing is roads, condition of some of the roads up in this area here. Some of it's state, but a lot of them are county. And then you have the township, of course, that is fills in there.
Mm-hmm.
Other things would be youth sports. In other words, the fields that were built by the township a couple of years ago, helping that situation out when possible, because I'm into sports, but I mean, the idea of working with those people, that seems to be a lot of the interest in the area up here.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
Businesses too. I mean, how the business are being affected by present situation.
So if I'm looking at your resume here, you have a very unique resume in that you have private sector consulting background with what you've been doing more recently, but then at a point you became a police officer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
You're talking primarily with county government about budget topics and also public safety topics being top of mind and important. Just any general thoughts on how your background, just your thoughts on your background ties to the needs of the moment at the county, or discussions, with your specific private sector background. How important is it with your private sector background, and how would that tie into this and then the public safety side? Just any additional thoughts on that?
Well, prior to me going to St. Louis University, I was in a seminary studying to be a priest. And I went to St. Louis University because of that. I left the seminary after my first semester. But what I think is essential for me, and what has really helped me along, is the fact that all that has helped me deal with people. When I was in the seminary, you learn how to deal with people in all aspects. Law enforcement did the same thing. You learn the good, the bad, the ugly, everything else you want to do from people being in law enforcement. Working with the juveniles at one point, I actually started a Boy Scout group with the law enforcement. They were an Explorer post, and that was the first Explorer post in that area. And worked with a lot of the kids and the parents and so forth, worked with the school districts. After that, when I became into the private sector, again, working with people. So I think my strong point is working and talking with people. I've done that all my life. I mean, there are things I don't like and there's things I do like, but I think I can work with almost anybody, and I've proven that throughout my history. Even if I don't like them, I still work with them.
There we go. So you, as we're talking, what questions, we've asked you some questions, Mike, what what questions do you have for us?
Honestly, I don't know at this time. I mean, I appreciate this opportunity. There's not a lot I don't understand about it at this point, but that will come with time. I don't have anything, I mean, that strikes me right away.
Mhm.
But I mean, I'm sure there will be. I mean, the overall function of what I'm going to be doing, I'll probably have questions on that, and I'll ask people on that what I need to do, what I need to prepare for. That doesn't bother me, trust me.
And I'm just asking, and I'm sorry, it's kind of off the script. Do you know some of the county board members? And if so, how would that help you coming in? And if you don't know any current county board members, how would you go about building some relationships early on in the process?
Well, I know Jim Webster. I've worked with him, especially on some of his campaigns and so forth. I did know Boomer, and I worked on some of his campaigns. I haven't talked to him on this at all. And then I met a couple others at functions like Lincoln Day and that sort of thing. But I mean, Jim Webster probably is the one I know more. I do know Tom Hawes, and Tom Hawes at one point used to be on the board many, many moons ago. So I would talk to him or get advice from him and or Jim Webster at this point.
Gotcha. Mr. McDonald, do you have any additional questions, or are you good for now?
No, I don't have any additional questions. I really appreciate your time tonight, Mr. Zentek. I think you're doing terrific. You seem like a good dude.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Any other last thoughts on with your background with what you would bring to the table on the county board if appointed? One question: what haven't we talked about that you want to talk about? And number two is, if you were appointed in this short interim time, would you want to be extend your service for an additional 2 years to what would be the traditional end of the District 4 term? So
yes, I would.
Anything we haven't talked about, you want to put on record about your candidacy? And two, what are your future plans past 2020?
I don't really have anything to talk about, that questions or that sort of thing, but yeah, I would definitely be willing to stay on to after 2020.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. And I think we're good now. We've hit all our questions. Really appreciate your time. And if you have any follow-ups for us, Mike, you got it, both of our numbers. Others, I'm sure, will be reaching out to you that are either watching or plan to follow up as well. And we'll be in touch. Just for the record, I do believe Mr. McDonald is going to have a Republican caucus meeting on Monday. He's shaken his head yes, and there'll be some further discussion. And I know everybody would like to get things firmed up and wrapped up and get somebody in that seat representing District 4 residents as soon as humanly possible.
Right. Thank you for that. I did get a call from Steve from District 3 and had a very nice discussion with him. And, so I mean, it went well. But I do thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with you folks.
Mike, appreciate your time, and be safe.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Frank. Bye-bye.